see if it starts. You're now broadcasting. Hare Krishna. So, we have a treat for all of you today. I have a problem with that. The book I was going to read from is on my phone. In order to get my phone to work, or to not use my phone, I have to use my phone as a hotspot and then use my iPad, which didn't work last time. So then I decided I would study something else. And what we're going to discuss is, we discussed a lot about love, but now we're going to discuss the stages that lead to love, because it helps us understand love better. So I was reading this morning from, I was reading this morning from Madhurya Kadambini. Have you read it?
No.
Half your life is wasted. You read it?
They were offering it this morning.
Oh, class.
The book. No, the book.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing. Amazing book.
I read a few pages of it.
So, amazing. Krishna Chakravarti Thakur. It's amazing. So, you know, Adho Shraddha, devotional service begins with faith. Tata Sadhasanga, Bhajana Kriya. So Bhajana Kriya is the practice we're all doing. If you're engaged in some kind of sadhana, that's called Bhajana Kriya. And from when you have faith, you want to hear, you want to associate with devotees. And then you want to do what they're doing. So can I do some service? Show me how to chant. So then the devotees tell you, you should do this. You should follow these principles. That's Bhajana Kriya. And then from that, the next stage is Anartha Nivritti. And so this section now we're going to begin with Anartha Nivritti. He describes it in more detail. And then love is just, we discussed in other classes, the more the anarthas go, the more the love rises. And when there's even on the stage of Bala, there's some little trace of I, me, very minute. And so each stage the traces go away, and then it ends up with love. So we've been, could leave that door open. We've been discussing the love of Mother Yashoda, which is amazing. And then by discussing that love, and then discussing this topic, I think it'll just shed more light on it. Hare Krishna. So I'm going to read, and then we'll discuss this. After Bhajana Kriya comes Anartha Nivritti, or clearing of bad qualities which obstruct the progress of bhakti. Anarthas may be classified into 4 types according to their origin. This is interesting. Who knows the 4 types? Anarthas, the 4 types according to where they come from. Prabhupada used to sleep with rose petals. He'd have the devotees get rose petals. Put them on his pillow. Sleep with them. Aromatherapy, Nice bag, Okay, should I blow your mind first?
Yes.
Anarthas that come from executing devotional service.
What's that?
Because by doing service, you get things. You get some honor. You get some money. You get people serving you. You get people praising you. And then you become contaminated by it. So those are a direct result of devotional service. So you have anarthas due to past sins. We know that. And there's two others, which I'm forgetting. Oh. Anarthas arising from past piety. Piety. You get, yeah, it could be, yeah. You know the people who are the most proud? The people who have the best qualities and the most qualifications. So that can be a cause of, and then offenses to the holy name, or offenses in general. So sin, piety, devotional service, and offenses. Could be the holy name, Vaishnavas, seva, or what. So now it describes it here. Anarthas to bhakti arising from sinful activities are 5 types, previously mentioned. Ignorance, false ego, attachment, hatred, and addiction to evil. That's the anarthas that come from doing sin. Ignorance, false ego, attachment, hatred, and addiction to evil. Anarthas arising from pious activities are the addictions to results of pious action. So it means sattva guna. You become attached to being in sattva guna. If I do pious things, then everything's good, and I'm happy in the material world, and I get addicted to that, and I want to stay here. So that becomes an anyway, simple. It said here, sinful activities, they produce all kinds of bad results. We know that. Then, anarthas which arise from offense, basically it says here it's referring to namaparad. And seva aparads is not a problem. If you don't do all, sometimes seva aparads, it's listed in Nectar Devotion, all the things you should do when you go to a temple and like that. But sometimes we don't do everything, but it's not in defense. But I don't know if you know this. This is very heavy. This may depress you for your whole day or life. But offenses to the holy name are not completely cleared away until the stage of prema, where these other offenses are cleared away sooner. Do you know that?
So you can still get to prema even though...
Yeah, on the stage of bhava, there's still some residual effects of offense to the holy name. Whereas these other offenses to the bhakti, or offenses, sins, go away at much earlier stage. I think it's described here. But that's it. That's very heavy to think about. You know, we're chanting and we're committing offense. It has an effect. Now,
Here, completely only at
prema.
the last
Prema,
stage.
Mhm. On the other hand, taking advantage of scriptural statements which guarantee the permanent effect of even a little devotional service, or which guarantee perfection simply by chanting one Krishna mantra, and as a result, willfully omitting some of the angas of bhakti does not produce namaparad and anartha. For committing sin on the strength of holy name refers to willful commission. Like let's say, you know, you have important service and you certain things you miss Guru Puja, you miss that, and so then it's not willfully committing a sin. It's just you omitted something. So you're not. But anything you do, thinking I can do something wrong and get free from it, that's offense to the holy name. Then there's criticizing Vaishnavas. He's describing the different offenses. And so basically he's describing the different anarthas we deal with. Criticizing Vaishnavas, and then he makes the point, well, there's namaparad, there's criticizing Vaishnavas, and he makes the point criticism means malicious, like I may criticize you, but I'm not malicious. Look at him, he's got a turmeric stain on his dhoti, he's a Slav. That I'm just joking, or everybody knows he's a Slav. That's a criticism, but it's not malicious. It's not defamation. It's not coming from a heart which wants to destroy you in some way. So that's the description of sadhu ninda. Ninda means animosity.
If you find it funny and if you laugh, it's offensive. Is it offensive?
If you it is, but it's not it's not an offense to the holy name. It's not. I mean, it's not good, but
Offense to Vaishnava?
it's not. I mean, there's offenses and there's offenses. It's like, everyone who's married offends their spouse at some point. You stupid, why did you do that? That's an offense, right? It's not considered sadhu ninda. It's not malicious.
But if you find like a spot or something like that and you find it funny and you laugh at it, it's always like something funny.
It's not malicious. So. I talked about this before. Depends how you want to look at it. You don't want to look at it as an excuse and say, well, I find fault with the Vaishnavas, but I just make jokes out of them, so everything's okay. You don't want to think like that. But the point is, it's not the same as maliciously offending somebody, right? So, here, he explains it. If one is reluctant to put oneself in a humble position by offering repeated respects and service to the Vaishnava that one has offended, and justifies himself by arguing that simply taking shelter of the name is sufficient for the deliverance from the offense, then he's guilty of further offense. So, you actually criticize the devotee and then you chant Hare Krishna and saying, well, whatever, I chant Hare Krishna. That's really bad. And don't think offense to devotee is only for an elevated devotee.
I was maybe misunderstood.
Oh, that's okay. Such a person attempts to minimize his own offense by pointing out some defect in the devotee. In other words, I criticize you, so it's not offense because you did something wrong. Anyway, you're just a new devotee.
It's not offense.
No, it is.
It's not offense.
It is. He's saying, don't think it isn't.
But
In other words, hang the dog and give him a bad name. So it's like, well, you did this. In other words, it's just saying be careful. And just because they do something wrong doesn't mean you can criticize them. Yes. Yeah.
But when I was telling you about the spot, I didn't mean it like a spot of character or behavior. It was like a real spot on the
I
skin.
understand.
Okay.
Because I gave that example.
Oh, okay. Even
I mean,
that?
the thing is, if you make an offense to a devotee, you actually make it, you'll feel it.
Yeah.
You will be miserable, and your bhakti will be affected by it. Right? If you, hey, Slav, look at that stain. It's not like you don't get up for Mangalarti because you made this maha aparad. No. And he knows you were joking, and he's not offended, right? But if I'm maliciously attacking him, I'm on the internet, maliciously attacking him.
You shouldn't go around
Then-
like this.
Then it says here, I should serve him, and I should ask for forgiveness. And then it says, if he doesn't forgive me, I should just constantly chant and ask the holy name to forgive me. And by constantly chanting, I'll be forgiven. And then it says, if he doesn't take offense, still his feet take offense. The dust of the feet, because Krishna takes offense. So he says, I'm not offended. And Krishna says, you offended my devotee. So it said, therefore, the dust of his lotus feet takes offense. That's the way it's described. So I'm not offended, but the dust of his lotus feet, meaning Krishna didn't like what you did. So it's like, I'm okay, which is good. I'm okay, that's better. But Krishna may not like it. But if you offend a devotee, you'll feel it. It'll affect you. Your mind will be disturbed in some way. You'll experience some difficulty. But general ideas, it's one thing to criticize. It's another thing to maliciously attack. We all criticize. We shouldn't. But a lot of our criticism is not malicious. It's just out of control. And I wrote a newsletter about 38 reasons I discovered, or 28 reasons I discovered why we criticize. Some may just be emotional insecurity. It's not even a spiritual problem. It's a psychological problem. We just don't like people to be better than us. We're highly competitive. We're always number one. If I'm number two, I'll criticize you. I did that all my life. But now the problem is I'm criticizing devotees, so it's not the best. It's not. Yes?
Raj, in case if you have to discuss the situation with the seniors, or you're emotionally involved and you feel like somebody hurts you and you have to discuss it whatever because the person is equal and you need to solve some kind of such a problem, and of course you're emotionally hurt, so you can be a little harsh when you discuss it with seniors or whatever, and the woman like to discuss some kind of emotional stuff, and is it offensive or not when
I think the way I understand it is you have to ask the question in two ways. Do you feel you're being offensive? And you might say, I don't feel I'm offensive. I feel I need to discuss it. And then to the person you're discussing, do you feel I'm offending you? Because even if you're not offensive and they feel offended, unfortunately, then it calculates on the scoreboard as an offense. You know what I'm saying?
So if I'm telling you about my situation with my husband, for example, and he like a jerk, but whatever, and I'm emotionally very colorful, explains how hurt am I now, and is it offensive or not?
I don't think so. But if he gets offended, then there's some.
Of course he's not offended because he's thinking he's
Perfect.
pure soul and.
My analysis is no, it's not offensive because if it were, every Grihastha couple would have bloop by now because they all do that. So there's these people have affection for one another and then they fight. So it might be taken as offensive as
So family case, not so much.
I don't see that it would be because according to Shastra, if you offend a Vaishnava, it's hati mata, the mad elephant. It'll destroy your bhakti. So that means all the grihastas would be destroyed. Don't get married because you're inevitably going to offend somebody when you live with them. And even if, but it's not malicious. You're offending the person that you love. So love is the underlying element. So how can that be what this is describing? Right?
And they most likely forgive you.
Yeah. 10 minutes later, everything's fine.
Or unexpectedly, you can commit an offense and unconsciously, unexpectedly. Yesterday, you're standing in a line for Mahaprasadam and the Prabhu's next to me, and he tried to get his prasadam, but I moved my hand, and his prasadam falls down. But I just took mine, and it unconsciously, and it's like it happens. But he was so angry that his prasadam falls down. He's like, "Wow, Mataji," and what are you doing? Why so much rajas? But I just took my prasadam, and he tried to catch it from under my.
Anyway,
and I was wondering what I'm doing. Why he's so angry? But he feel offensive in this situation.
There are even unconscious offense, right? So,
He was offended.
I don't think all these things are offensive, personally. But Scripture cautions us to deal with devotees nicely. But You do your best.
He was offended.
Is it a big matter of like your mentality in doing something that if you come and you're humble about it in a particular situation? Because, like you said, I mean, even being married, it's inevitable that you do make offenses, and in dealing with devotees, like you might accidentally get into something. But then if you always sort of take the,
Yeah.
you know, it was my fault or I did something wrong.
I saw a godbrother of mine. I was here and I saw him, I don't know, 5 years ago. I hadn't seen him since 1976. 5 years ago means, like what, 75, it's like 35 years or something. More than that. I hadn't seen him in 40 years. And he had a Sankirtan party. And he was a little too, the Sankirtan party was women. And they were traveling. And we got a report from one of the women that he was a little, I should say, too friendly. Nothing, nothing illicit, but just too friendly, too physically friendly with the women. And it got to a point where we decided we had to stop it. And so he had gone away for a few days, I don't know why, and then we took advantage and we went out there and we just broke the party up. I don't know what, they came back to the temple or we stayed there with him or something. And he had been in charge of this party for, I don't know, a year or so. It was quite successful. And he saw me 5 years ago and he said, I've never forgiven you for what you did. He remembered it 40 years later. So obviously that wasn't good for my Krishna consciousness, but it wasn't a maha aparad. It was in service. It was the best thing for devotees. So, Krishna knows your motives, right? If we look at it from our perspective, if someone offends us, it's better we don't get offended, because if we are, that's bad for them. But sometimes you can't control it, and you are offended. Like that devotee was offended. But those kinds of things, and then that upset you, but those kinds of things they may be disruptive, mentally, but they don't constitute a situation which would cause a major aparad, or it would cause somebody to fall down. I curse you. Something like that. Like if he cursed you, he would be affected by that.
The one who cursed.
Yeah. Of course, generally we don't curse. Let me see. I'm going on chat. See if you want to chat. Okay. Chat away, everyone. I'm not ignoring you. It's just there's people here. So it looks like I'm ignoring you, but we know you're there. I think you're there. Are you there? I hope you're there.
But it seems to me that anyway Krishna is very merciful in many cases, because he's considering your emotional state very much. Because if it wasn't like this, I was like already.
Krishna considers what time of month it is.
It's like, yes, I was already, my bhakti lata was already dead.
Yeah, listen to this. Yeah. I mean, see, the thing is, Krishna's making every effort to get us out of the material world. And Vachitan is very merciful, and Prabhupada is very merciful. So, it's like a lot of devotees live by rules and regulations. They make one mistake and they think, oh, I'm probably going to hell now. But it's not exactly how Krishna thinks, right? It's like,
I meant something much heavier than before.
Going to hell?
No, going to break the rules. I've been very offensive and
Then, if you feel that way, like if you made an offense and you feel like, I just feel like giving up, or I'm drawn into sinful activity very strongly, then that would be a result of it. And you're not. Or you're just like you're chanting your rounds and it feels like nothing's happening and you don't like chanting. You really used to like chanting, now you don't. You like to study and now you don't. Then that's the result of offense. But if it's just a little task that you have with the devotee over prasadam and you're upset and the next day you're fine, that's different. I mean, when you live with people, we live in an ashram, we say so many things. But if it's serious criticism, Krishna will tolerate us if we correct ourselves. But if we don't correct ourselves, he'll say, okay, I gave you a chance. You're not treating my devotees well, so I'll remove you from their association because you don't know how to treat them. Sometimes he does that. Another thing I've noticed, I don't know if I have Shastra to support this. It may be, but I can't recollect it right now. But, there was a devotee in Los Angeles years ago, and he was doing a lot of service. And he was really offensive. This was his nature. Some people have that nature. They're just offensive. Arrogant and, like Donald Trump. The Republican Party is trying to control him, but they can't because he's like the incarnation of Duryodhana. He just defends people. That's what he does. Now, this devotee was continuing in Krishna consciousness, doing so much service, and he was so offensive, and it bewildered everybody. He said, why is Krishna allowing him to do that? And one of the answers we were given was because he's doing so much service, not his motive is to serve, and his nature is to be offensive. Then Krishna, it's like on the scale, it did more service than more offenses, and the offenses weren't that big to tip the scale. Right? And I agree with that. And that's practical because we see that there are people who've done amazing service for Prabhupada, and they were offensive. When the scales tipped, those people left. When the scales tipped the other way, they had sufficient humility to do enough service and kind of be okay with most devotees, then they stayed. But then you look at we have a phenomenon that exists on the internet where people pick on the gurus of ISKCON and put wolf faces on their bodies and write obscene things. It's like right out of the mental hospital. Have you seen it? Don't see it. It's like this one's, they make, I don't want to say, but
More like Photoshop.
they're Photoshop, they've got, horns on him, and they give him a name. And,
The Ritviks did it about them.
yeah, the Ritviks do, yeah, they're all good. So you're looking at that, and you're thinking, how can Krishna allow them to go on in Krishna consciousness? And one thought I have is that they're not in Krishna consciousness. It looks like they're in Krishna consciousness, but if you're in Krishna consciousness, you wouldn't do that. So Krishna's allowing them to think they're in Krishna consciousness, and they're simply making aparad and destroying themselves. But you want to hear a funny story? The leader of that group, who is the most offensive, like the number one, by far, light years above everyone else in offenses, of this own particular Ritvik group. I saw him 7, 8 years ago. I hadn't seen him in 30 years. And I actually preached to him to become a devotee in 1970. So he was joking with me. He goes, "You're probably regretting that you made me a devotee, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." He's the number one. He's the number one offender. Anyway. So, that's my answer to that question. How can Krishna let them go in Krishna consciousness? And I say, but if they're making those offenses, they're not in Krishna consciousness. So they're not really in Krishna consciousness. He's just letting them go make offenses. That's what they want to do. And you find devotees, all your chanting is Nama Parad.
In the Bhagavad Gita it says that even if devotee commits sin, they're situated on the right path. So
That's if they're remorseful.
that's if they're remorseful.
You read the commentaries on that verse. It says when the devotee commits a sin, he thinks, I'm so bad. I've done something very bad. He's remorseful, and he's also determined not to do it. So that's it. You make an offense and you're remorseful. Like, what should I do? You should be remorseful, you should apologize. You should serve the person. And as I said, if they don't accept your apology, then you just chant and ask Krishna to accept it. That's how you do it. Can you close that door? Yeah. Christina says, on work. You mean you're at work?
I
Okay.
was asking the same.
Okay.
The same. Because what I noticed that if we are like, we say Krishna and I've done maybe once a mess,
But you can always correct it.
yes,
As soon as you correct it, everything's okay.
just think.
Yeah. Krishna forgives. Okay. Here's something interesting. The eradication of anarthas arising from previous sin is as follows. At Bhajana Kriya, the eradication is general. With Nishta, it's complete, and with Asakti, it's absolute. So, if you commit a sin, it's not nearly as bad as committing an offense to a devotee. Because it says, just when you get to the stage of Nishta, pretty much the effect is gone. But Nama Parada doesn't go till Prema. Why don't you sit in that chair?
Repeat please the last sentence. When you commit the sin, it's not bad.
Yeah, no. Sin is not bad.
Sin is
I
not
mean,
bad.
sin is bad. It's not that bad. Nama Parad, Vaishnava Parad is bad. Sin is not that bad. Because sin on the stage of Nishta, the effects of sin go away. If you had a choice to eat a hamburger or offend a Vaishnava, what would you do?
I guess hamburger, according to.
Yeah. Not that I suggest eating. Don't do either one. But technically, this is a catch. Test quiz question here. What's worse, eating a hamburger or offending a Vaishnava?
Parada is always the worst.
Yeah.
But it's one of the offense of holy name when you commit sins and the hope that
No.
you know.
You just ate the hamburger.
If
You
do
had
sinful
either.
activity and
You either. I give you a choice. I have a gun in your head and say, either offend your guru or eat a hamburger. What do you do?
I will not do both
You have to
things.
do one or you die.
I'll throw out the cutlet from the hamburger.
So that's not committing sin on the strength of chanting. That's just.
But it's apparat against the holy name when you commit sinful activity and hope to
You're not committing. You're not hoping. You just.
just
You
once.
accept the.
Prabhupada told the devotees if there's nothing to eat in Eastern Europe, then you can eat meat.
Really?
In the Swedes, the North Island, they have only fish. They eat fish.
I know many Bengali devotees eating fish right now in my home.
Fish
So,
is-
but they had a choice.
But they eat it.
Yes, but
And Prabhupada said that it's very difficult to push the Bengali people not to
Yeah.
eat fish,
Yeah.
as far as I know.
So anyway,
So it's not so
so at the the stage of Nishta, the eradication is complete, and at Sakti, it's absolute. The eradication of anarthas from Bhakti is, on the stage of Ruchi, it's complete. It's one step higher. Well, Nishta complete, Ruchi absolute. Anyway, we were discussing this before. So when we talk about, the point is, what he's saying here is, when you talk about anarthas, you're talking about aparads, sins, material, engaging in material activity to come to sattva guna and enjoy. Right? What was the other one? Sins, devotional activities, piety, and aparads. And then they manifest in all the details of different anarthas, and all the anarthas keep you away from pure devotional service, right?
So how do you, if you're feeling stuck, how do you know which aparat? I mean, it's probably all of them for.
Well,
but is there a way of, like, if you're feeling stuck, then
Why?
you're trying to get through it?
Buy my aparad meter. Put it to your heart, and it will tell you what offenses you make. I think a lot of times it's not offenses. It's just the nature of conditioned life. It's actually, the real thing is, we're not chanting purely. That solves all your problems. You chant purely.
So, like, in my head, like, okay, so in my heart, when I chant and I focus, I feel, like, I feel that taste, but
Yeah.
then in my mind,
Yeah.
I still struggle to, make it say, okay, let's chant, like, I know in my heart that I have, there is a higher taste, but still I have to force my mind
Yeah.
sometimes.
Right.
Even though my heart knows, but my mind is not willing to, because of old habits.
Exactly. Okay, so here's understanding from this, we understand on the stage of Ruchi, your heart and your mind are one. The stage of Bhajana Kriya, your heart and your mind are two. Right? On the stage of Ruchi, you don't need determination, because your heart and mind are one. On the stage of Bhajana Kriya, even in Artha Nivritti, your problem, the solution is determination. And don't lament the reality of where you're at. Just accept this is the reality and you have to go through that. It's like if you learn harmonium and you've never played keyboards, then you have to learn how to play. And it might be awkward. Or maybe you're left-handed and you're in India and you go, no, inauspicious, you have to learn with your right hand. So now it's really awkward, because you're left-handed and you're learning to play. So what do you get told? You just have to tolerate this uncomfortableness till you learn it and it becomes natural. So it's just, what a lot of devotees don't understand or don't deal with properly is the reality of where they're at. It's just like they don't like where they're at. But once you accept where you're at, then it's much easier to tolerate it, because it just is. I want to be up here. Great, but you're here. I know what I want to be up here. I hate it down here. As up there, as I see all these advanced devotees, and they're relishing Krishna consciousness and its nectar. And I'm here with this crazy mind, and I'm so envious and jealous and greedy and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So once you accept that, then you can employ your determination. And determination is so, and tolerance is so that you can be steady and not give up in spite of all those things. Right? You understand? That's why you need it. That's where you need it the most. And so the danger is where you need the enthusiasm or determination the most is often where you're least likely to have it because the condition is the worst. But the point is you don't need enthusiasm and tolerance when you have taste because you're not tolerating your mind anymore because your mind has no taste for anything other than Krishna. You don't need enthusiasm. You know, anything you have a taste for, you're enthusiastic automatically.
So you have a little taste, but not enough to give up.
So what happens is, every higher stage, there's a drop of it in the lower stage. So lower stage, you have taste, but it's a drop. It's not consistent. One day you'll have a lot, and one day you won't. That's a symptom of being on a lower stage. At a higher stage, you're getting just a little bit. But as you get closer to ruchi, you get more taste. And that's why the symptom of ruchi, like it's described here, we'll read it later or read tomorrow. Describe the symptom. This is really nice. The symptom of taste is you wake up when you chant. You wake up when you hear. And the symptom of lack of taste is you go to sleep when you hear and you go to sleep when you chant. It actually has the opposite effect. So someone in the stage of ruchi, they just want, they only talk about Krishna. You can't, they're just not interested in anything else. They chant extra rounds, they're always reading. They love serving, that's ruchi. So for those people, nobody has to encourage them. Prabhu, I need inspiration, I'm not really inspired.
I think like working at a job that's not Krishna conscious, you build up this spiritual energy, and then like for me, I feel like by the time I get home, it's like, oh, because it feels like it's sucked out.
Yeah, it is.
So then you have to be extra motivated before and after.
Yeah, that's part of it. Read my article, Turning Your Workplace into Vaikuntha. Could be on Dhanavad, could be on my website. It's in BTG. I dealt with this whole problem. So what you say is partially true, but you can flip it around when you're at work and have another vision at work. Or get a different job. Or start your own company.
No, it's like it's in social work, so I feel like it's not so anti spiritual life, but it's just how do I frame my workplace to be more spiritual?
It's actually easy. You see everyone as spiritual. It's actually very simple. And, right? You see everyone suffering in the material world controlled by the modes of nature, in need of Krishna consciousness.
Yeah. I mean, I'm starting to try and, see that. Because I work with elderly people. And they say, one of them said to me, oh, I'm in so much pain, I want to die.
Yeah.
And I just remember, old age is like, Prabhupada always says old age is full of suffering.
Then you get purified by seeing that. You're seeing a verse from the Gita. To be conscious of the miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death. If you chant better rounds, you'll be better. That's for sure.
I saw actually that the process was like always gradual, like fading, not like one stage and then oops, into the other one. Is it like this?
Yeah. But it doesn't mean the higher stages are not present in the lower stages to some level. And it doesn't mean that some days the higher stages don't drip down like a shower instead of a drop. That's the nature of mercy, right? Deepa, Haribol. See, what you need to focus on, see, here's the problem. When we see our faults, we tend to focus on them. Right? If you focus on your faults, I give you a money-back guarantee, you'll become discouraged. Guaranteed. No question. And the more you focus, the more discouraged you'll get. Right? The secret of Krishna consciousness is you focus on the process. Like, here's the holy name. It's all powerful. It's all merciful. It can defeat Maya. It can awaken my love of God. Right? You focus on that, you'll be very enthusiastic. It'll take your focus off all your challenges because you realize it doesn't matter what my challenges are, right? Because I have the holy name. The holy name is all powerful. So that's what I'm focused on. I'm focused on the value of sadhu sangha, the beauty of it, the power of it. I'm focused on the fortune I have to be in that sangha, to have the temple of deity. That's what I do. So it's very positive. So my situation could be here, here, or here. It doesn't really matter. But because I have all this up here, it's going to eventually get up there. And that's what's exciting, right? This is all up here. I'm down here. So if I focus here, I've got faults which seem like a deep ocean, isn't it? I just can't seem to get the end of my faults. That's discouraging. Then I think, well, it's never going to end. When will I be Krishna conscious? But the holy name is so powerful, it will eventually purify us. And so that's where our faith lies, and that's where our focus lies. And then you'll be very positive. Even even you're challenged at work, even if it's difficult, you can leave work and go home and read Bhagavatam and you'll be okay. Right? Isn't it? No matter how far you fall, you can crash, land, but you can go read Bhagavatam in an hour of Bhagavatam and you'll be fine. Isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's what you need to focus on. And that'll keep you enthusiastic. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
I just want to ask, like, we have a tendency, I mean, we're working outside in the material world, and we feel that we need, in some level or another, to fit in to our workplace or our school or whatever. And in order to do that and not feel like completely an outsider and separate and aloof and not really engaging or, actually being present there, that we have to kind of relate to the people that we're working with. But then when we do that, personally I feel that my mentality actually gets sucked into that.
Yeah.
I'm taking their association as opposed to, taking that everywhere. So how do we kind of avoid that?
My conclusion is, this is not a practical answer. My conclusion is we should have our own companies, so we don't have to. We don't have to hang out with that because it's. You can be strong, but that association has its effect. Unless you just want to play the role of the sadhu and just let everybody know, this is what I am. I'm not like part of this world. I don't do that. And then maybe they'll respect that or joke about it or whatever, or both.
Does it depend on the individual whether it's better to try and relate and fit in, or whether it's better to just
Yeah, some devotees have no problem relating. Their nature, they're total extroverts. They'll relate and joke with anybody. It doesn't even affect them. It's like it affects them as not to relate because they're so social. That's just their nature. I think they're less bothered by those things. I'm sure you can do it, but you have to be comfortable about doing it. So this is, like, well, I don't eat this and I don't do that, because I would feel it's better they all know that. Yeah, the Christmas party. Yeah, that's fine, but I'll drink 7-Up. I'm not gonna. Don't expect me to drink anything else.
Just be open.
I think there's also a lot of tendency to be inside our head and think that, this person's gonna like react in this particular way, and like, yeah, we're always having these internal dialogues in our head where in reality when we actually let that play out, and people don't necessarily react the way that
They
we
might like it.
think.
They're like,
Yeah.
oh, that's cool. And even if they don't like it, that just confirms that it doesn't matter. It's like, in some cases, we just have to be who we are. And we can't always count on people liking it. That would be a bad reason to compromise our principles because people don't like it.
Yeah.
And good people, like you say, will like it. Right?
And maybe I think potentially like we'll compromise. Like obviously, it would be ideal if we can start our own company. But like I've felt if I'm in an environment where nobody's appreciating me being different in any way, then don't be in that environment. Leave. Go to another job.
Okay. Find a company that appreciates it. I would do that. So Illumination 16, turn your workplace into Vaikuntha. On my website. It'll say newsletters on top. Letter number 16. Let me finish reading this, see where it takes us. Huh. Yeah. Okay. So, well, the next one is interesting. Hold on. The next one is Nista. This will answer your question also. This is really good. We'll go over a little bit. Saying it's worth it. Previously in the discussion of the two types of bhajan or kriya, anishtita, which means unsteady, and nishtita, which means steady, 6 types of anishtita bhajan or kriya were described. Without describing nishtita bhajan or kriya, anartha nivritti was discussed. Now, just citing some shlokas from the Bhagavatam, and these Bhagavatams are clarifying what's being discussed and what's going to be discussed. Shrinatam Swakata Krishna. You know the verse? Shrinatam Swakata Krishna. Punya Shravana Kirtana. You don't know? You have to take Bhakti Shastra. Well, of course, that's Bhagavatam, but you should know this. Shrinatam Swakata Krishna. Punya Shravana Kirtana. Vidyantastoya Vajani. Vidyanoti Suritsita. And then the next verse. Nasta Praeshu Avadreshu. Nityam Bhagavati Seva. Bhagavati Uttama Shakti. Bhaktir Bhavati Nashki. Bhagavati Uttama Shloke. Bhaktir Bhavati Nashki. Lord Krishna, who is affectionate to his devotees and situated in their hearts, destroys all inauspicious elements of those who hear topics about the Lord. For the inauspicious elements have been generally destroyed by devotional service, steady devotion appears. So, steadiness is called nishta. It comes when these anarthas are destroyed, because the anarthas, like you're saying, your mind or whatever, pulls you away. You can't be steady because now you feel like this, or you're pulled this way. The first verse refers to the stage of unsteady bhakti. For in the next verse, naishtiki bhakti is mentioned. That means steady. In the first verse, Abhadrani Virunoti, destruction of inauspicious elements, refers to the stage of Anartha Nivritti. We just discussed that. Situated between the two stages of bhajan, steady and unsteady. The word nasta praya, destroyed, means that the anarthas are not present at all. So the first verse says, Krishna claims the anarthas. The next verse says, the anarthas are gone. So one is unsteady, anartha nivritti, it's unsteady, the anarthas are going. Nishta means they're gone. Most of them are gone, now you're steady. And what Prabhupada means by this is now, like you don't struggle with the four regular principles, it's not a problem. Don't really struggle with very severe anarthas. Nishta means to be endowed with a quality of steadiness or non-fluctuation. Though a person tries for steadiness every day, while anarthas are still present, he will not be steady. This is due to the persistent obstacles of mental inactivity or sleep, projection, spiritual indifference, sinful habits, taste for material enjoyment. After anartha nivritti, when all these obstacles are almost destroyed, one achieves nishta. So he's going to describe, these are the things that get in the way of being steady. Laya refers to the tendency to sleep during kirtan, shravana, and smarana, in order of increasing tendency. So it's more of a tendency to fall asleep when you're thinking about Krishna, a little less when you're hearing, and a little less when you're doing kirtan or shavana. Vishkepa refers to projecting mundane conceptions while hearing, reciting, or remembering the topics of the Lord. When thinking Radha and Krishna like a boy and a girl. Aprapati refers to the state of indifference, being unable to perform kirtan, like I don't care. Shaya means the tendency to indulge in anger, greed, pride, and other unworthy habits. Rasavad refers to the inability to absorb the mind in kirtan. When there arises the opportunity for material sense pleasure, Nishta appears in the absence of these faults. So when you see a devotee steady, they're just, in bhakti, this is absent. And then, sometimes we see devotees and they exhibit these qualities and say, well, he's a devotee. Why is he like this? Because this is the stage he's on. It's not purified. Not completely purified. We're not on the stage of Nishta. But then the next verse in the Bhagavatam, Tada Rajastamo Bhava, Kamo Labhavirayasjaye, Chaitayatanavidam Stitam Sattva Prasidati. At that time, one is completely freed from the influence of Tama and Rajaguna. The heart, being situated in Sattva and untouched by these impurities, experiences happiness. So what technically it's explaining is, these anarthas are all symptoms of passion and ignorance. By hearing Bhagavatam, you come to the stage of Nishta, which means to be in Nishta, you have to be in Sattva. When you're in Sattva, you're steady. And you're happy in Sattva. That's what it means. So you can look forward to coming to Sattva Guna.
So when you're in Nishta, do you also develop like those saintly qualities? Or does that come later?
They're developing slowly. But more because it's Sattva Guna. So it's the absence of those qualities, less greed, anger, and so on. So naturally, the higher qualities develop. Although some people bring those qualities from their last life.
So, because sometimes you assume like, oh, they're a devotee for this many years, so then they should have all saintly qualities, but
Yeah.
that conditioning is so strong that.
Yeah, it's hard. We expect a lot from devotees. Some are more conditioned, and then you see someone who's not a devotee and they don't have that conditioning.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you get bewildered. And you think, I'm going to leave this guy. Nicer people outside. And Prabhupada answered that. I think we talked about this a lot. And Prabhupada answered that. But Prabhupada, it's like I once told my wife, I said, I was reading some articles about being more compassionate, having more integrity, being kinder, self-control. Really, really good articles. A magazine, just like a free magazine where we live in Alachua. I forget what it's called. It's like an alternative spiritual magazine. It's free because it's full of ads. And reading these really good articles about living mindfulness, communication, relationship, all these things. But those articles, and sometimes they touch on spiritual topics, but when they get to the spiritual, it's like it doesn't compare to what we give. But that other level, it's much better than what we give. So I was telling my wife, I said, on this level, they're above us, and on the spiritual level, we're above them. Right? Now that's obviously a concern for many devotees. But why aren't we above them at both levels? That's another discussion. But at least for the sake of this discussion, what's being described here, philosophically, it means if we're still affected by passion and ignorance, then we're going to exhibit these qualities, even though we're engaged in devotional service. And so from Prabhupada's perspective, in Shastra, he's saying the glory is that you're engaged in devotional service in spite of those. But of course, you could make the argument, but after 50 years, it's not so glorious if you're still controlled by passion and ignorance. But you should be free, right? Listen to this. Steadiness in elements favorable to bhakti refers to steadiness in such qualities as humility, giving respect to others, friendliness, and mercy. Sometimes steadiness in such qualities may be seen in devotees who have the ability to control the senses, but who have not developed steadiness in bhakti, and sometimes steadiness in humility, etc. is not seen in those who have attained steadiness in bhakti. However, steadiness in bhakti itself gives one the proper intelligence to perceive the presence of steadiness in the qualities in the person who has steadiness in bhakti itself. Did I lose you there? The translation is not written that well.
Maybe that the steadiness in bhakti is the best anyway.
Well, it's basically describing what we just said. Sometimes you'll see somebody in passion, but they seem to be more humble than someone who's more advanced. In steadiness, but they're not developing the good qualities yet. But he's saying at least there's more of an awareness of what these qualities are, how they are exhibited in different people. With the appearance of Naishtiki Bhakti, the devotee attains a position in which the qualities born of Rajas and Tamas, such as lust, greed, etc., are absent, and Sattva qualities are present. So, Sattva, sometimes you slip into passion, so then you get angry or become envious or whatever. If you're advancing, mostly you'll be in Sattva. And when you're in Sattva, you're still affected by the lowermost, but just less. When you're transcendental, you're not. Right? One should understand that the laxity or intensity of effort in the matters of devotional service, such as hearing and chanting, when they become a fixed practice, manifest correspondingly two types of bhakti, unsteady and steady. So when you get to Sattva Gun, you'll be steady. It's called Nishta. And Nartha Nivritti means they're going away. Nishta means, Nartha Nivritti means, like what you were describing, I feel the pulling of my mind, but I don't act on it. So there's awareness, but gradually the power of its influence is decreasing because of the power of my bhakti. That's the idea. So that's what I was saying. Devotees don't get discouraged when they see these material desires, because if they're advancing, the material desires don't have much pull or sway on them. So they might be there, but they don't do much. Like I'm sure you have desires that you would never engage in, even if you could. Just they come to the mind. It's from past conditioning. So, oh, that looks nice. I'd like to do that. Really? You'd like to do that? No, not really. It's just the mind thought it would be nice. So Guru Nishta just wrote me a letter, and I think it was her who said that if all my desires were fulfilled, my life would be hell. Right? So, anartha nivritti kamita nishta, it's like all these desires are there, but you don't have to act on them because they're gradually losing their power. So the more you get to sattva, the more the effects of passion and those desires lessen. So there's awareness of them, but there's no impetus to do them. So that's one of the symptoms of advancing. It's not that everything goes away from the first week in the temple, but the impetus to do them is very, very weak. So you may still think, oh yeah, it'd be nice if I had this, or I wish this would happen. But you actually don't really. It's just leftover residual.
Or outside influences, maybe.
Outside influences also. But outside influences need something to grab onto. So like outside influence is a butcher shop, and people are going by going, oh, their mouth's watering. And we go by and we run away. So it's the same influence. So there has to be, if you're being influenced by something that's tamasic or rajasic, that means it's connecting with the passion and ignorance within you. Because you only have goodness, it won't connect. Even you can go into a bar, but you're not going to drink. No matter how long you stay in that bar. The longer you stay in, the more disgusted you become. Right? But if you're in the mode of ignorance, the longer you stay in, the more you're going to drink. So we say, environment affects us. It's only going to affect us if you stay in long enough that it pulls you into ignorance. Then you'll get affected. But if you don't have ignorance in you, it's not going to really pull you. At least not. It would take a long time. So that's something to be aware of. If I say I'm getting influenced by my environment, but what does that say about me? Right? Like there's this famous discussion letter where it's a huge temple room, and the brahmacharis didn't want the women to chant. And I don't know who wrote Prabhupada. Maybe one of the women wrote him and said, they don't let us chant in the temple. It's a big temple, they want to chant. So Prabhupada wasn't happy about that, and he wrote them. And he said, well, if you don't want to chant with women, I suggest you go find a mountaintop, because you can be all alone up there. But that won't be very practical for preaching. So basically he said, just get over it. Just let them chant and just be Krishna conscious and there won't be a problem. So if there's a problem, that means that feature which is attractive is connecting with something in us that's attracted to it. So then it's a sign for us that it's not just the environment, but I'm interacting with the environment in a way that I'm attracted to it, so it's having a negative effect on me. Otherwise, what was my fault? It's just a bad environment. In some cases, it's true. Bad association will affect us. But it's also, if it really affects you, that means you're attracted to it, right?
But until we're Nishta, then there's a very good chance that it will link up with a desire that we have.
That's why you need Prabhupada's books. Because Prabhupada's books give you intelligence. You see, you're going to work, you're getting bewildered, the modes are interacting with your modes, everything's starting to look good, that in the morning it didn't look good, everything's looking bad, that in the morning looked good. You need Prabhupada's books every day. You read, and so Prabhupada will help you, give you the vision how to see what's going on in the world. So if you see it materially, you get affected by it. If you see it spiritually, you won't. Does that make sense? Prabhupada's books are so important. So many devotees don't read Prabhupada's books. And if you don't read enough, you're likely going to have trouble. Or your devotional service is not going to go very high.
Which books are named?
Start in the beginning.
Okay.
Gita, Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Devour them. I don't think devotees realize that it's like, the way I like to explain it is like this. There's a job to be done, and I'm giving you the tools, and I give you like 5 tools, but you only use 3. It's so hard to get this done. And you're complaining, I can't do it, it's so difficult. And I say, well, are you using all the tools? And they say, no. Well, the reason you can't do this is because that tool is meant for this job, and you were trying to do it with this other tool. And that's not enough. So think of Prabhupada's books as one of the tools that you need to carve your way out of the jungle of material life and go back to Godhead. And you say, I'm having trouble finding my way out of this jungle and cutting all the trees that are in the way. I said, yeah, because you're not using this tool. You need the holy name. You need Prabhupada's books. You need sadhu sangha. You need deities. You need seva. And if you don't have those things, you're going to say it's hard. And our intelligence in Kali Yuga is very weak. And so by reading Prabhupada's books, you get sharp intelligence. You know, I mean, one of the biggest problems we have in advancing is our intelligence is dull. Isn't it? Dull. You know, so we're attracted to things we shouldn't be attracted to. We do things and say things we shouldn't say. We don't see things clearly. I mean, you know, in theory, if we all understood Prabhupada's books, you know, not understood, if we were all living exactly, you know, what he said and seeing, like our vision was just what was there in his books, we'd have no trouble. We'd all be perfectly renounced and live simply and be very happy. Right? So by reading his books, gradually it gets you to that level. But if you don't read his books, then our dull intelligence takes over and starts to direct us. And if we don't see things spiritually, how are you going to act spiritually? That's the problem. So when you read his books every day, then, wow, it's so easy. Because you walk out of the house and you have a different vision. You're seeing things differently.
Because like growing up in Krishna consciousness, it was my mom was very regimented. You know, we had to read with her every day. We had to do arati with her every day. You know, it was very regimented. So then, after I left, I just wanted to do. I still wanted to be spiritual, but do it in my own time and the things that I like doing. Like I liked kirtan and I liked japa, so I would just do those two. So, but now, like I need like I can't. It's still like that void. So I need to bring back the structure. It feels like.
I like ice cream and I like pizza. But I just eat ice cream and pizza. I don't like pizza.
Yeah.
I like that. No, if you're raised in Krishna consciousness, that's very typical. If you're raised in Krishna consciousness, you have a very strong taste for certain aspects of Krishna consciousness, stronger than people who come from the outside. And so you're thinking, might as well just do that because I like it and it's so strong. But you have to realize there are other things that you need as part of your meal. That's what you're lacking. And when you start getting those, your life changes. Your consciousness changes. So take advantage of what you have, but eat your spinach also. Right? Yeah, pizza and ice cream is not a good analogy. Maybe it's like dal and chapatis, but you have to eat rice and sabji also. There's 5 things. 5 things. Deity worship, sangha, living in a holy place, hearing Bhagavatam, chanting holy name. So you have to do all 5. Yes? A question from Deepa. What is the question? Can I live in this world and be happy? Like Prabhupada said. And at the same time, I didn't get the rest of the question. Be happy. You can't be. You've tried for 1,000,000 lifetimes. It doesn't work. You can be happy by loving Krishna.
Did I miss the answer of Srila Prabhupada to that topic, like when you said there are better people outside ISKCON, so I should leave ISKCON? Did I miss the answer?
Prabhupada's answer was basically the best thing you can do is be Krishna conscious. It's kind of like saying, well, here's a choice. You can be a good non-devotee or a bad devotee. Which do you take? If I'm a bad devotee, there's hope I could become a good devotee. If I'm a good non-devotee, I don't know if I'll ever become a devotee. So, I can't see the rest of Christina. How can I live in this world and be happy? At the same. Christina, I can't read the rest of the question. How does this work? It cuts off there. And you're trying to say at the same time something. So they asked Prabhupada, is it better to be a Christian, Christians believe in God, or a demigod worshiper? He said, demigod worshiper, because you're in the Vedic system, and that'll get you higher, eventually get you there, because you're on the boat, you're just way behind. But the Christian boat is like going the wrong way. It's not going to get you to Vrindavan. So it's better stay in the Vedic system.
But isn't it still sort of in that spectrum? I mean, if you're pious Christian.
Yes and no, because pious Christians don't worship Tulsi. Pious Christians eat meat. Many pious Christians offend devotees. So that's it's not, them becoming Vaishnavas and taking up devotional service. It's less.
But still being worshiper of God versus atheist.
Yeah.
So why Jesus told us that if you surrender to me, you will have eternal salvation?
Because if you do, you will. But not in Braj. Some people say he came from Brahmaloka. Maybe they're only going to Brahmaloka. They'll be with him and get elevated from there. As you go, I don't want to say they don't have spirituality, but comparatively, Prabhupada said, Vedic system would lead you to a better position. But you respect sadhus, you respect cows, so many things are there that they don't do. So that's the problem, because their culture, it's a molecular culture. It didn't go through, Vedas. It went through their own scriptures, so it ended up a meat-eating, wine-drinking culture. And like in America, you've been in America. Christian culture is American culture. There's no difference. Football, Yeah, I went to the fishing with my son, then we went to the football game. It's good. I'm a good Christian. It's like synonymous, right? I heard one of the worst things I heard. This will answer your question. I think Christine will answer your question. Christine has a good question. One of the most popular radio show hosts, Christian radio shows in the United States, maybe even around the world, said, he's got a show 5 days a week. And he's author of many books, super popular. He's talking about father-son learning from his father. He said, I learned everything from my father when we went hunting together. That's why I'm by all the values in it. I was listening to that and I thought, this makes me want to vomit. It's so sick, isn't it? The most popular Christian teachers, pastors, this is where I learned, this is where my father and I most closely bound together, where the teachings were transmitted in the cyclic succession when we were hunting. And what do they hunt? They hunt deer for sport, because it's fun to kill deer, and it's good Christians go hunting, isn't it? I mean, Florida is like hunting. You know what they're like.
So I think that Christianity is quite diluted, right?
Yeah.
Just like Hinduism in
Totally.
the West, or
Totally.
Hinduism in India even has been diluted, where Hindus are even eating beef now
Yeah,
and still
totally.
consider themselves Hindus. So I think that's comparable.
It
Whereas,
is, but they're still, yeah, it is comparable in a sense.
but if like
Those
if someone
meat-eating-
takes Christianity seriously,
But those meat-eating Christians, if you sit down with them long enough, they know it's wrong. It's there in their scripture.
Yeah.
You could
Who
probably,
there are some Christians who are
Hindus.
vegetarian.
yeah.
So
In Kali Yuga, it's hard to make generalizations. So that was a generalization that if you're in the Vedic path, it'll lead to a higher position. That doesn't mean that you're in it, that you will be. And it doesn't mean if you're not, that you can't be very God conscious. You can be. But a different conception of God. Different realization. It's so confusing. It's so mixed up. You have so many. Like, yesterday we were leaving Brindakhand, right? So we're all in the car ready to go, and this guy drives up on his motorized rickshaw. And he parks right in front of us, and we can't leave. And he gets out to get some water, fill up his water bottles. And we're like, excuse me, we're trying to leave right now. There's 12 of us in the car. We have to go. And he just walks away with his bottles. And he comes back like 10 minutes later with his bottles full of water. And this is the Holy Dham. He's a Brajbasi. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, this is interesting, isn't it? They have so much bhakti in terms of human relationship, like they're negative 108. Isn't it? Sometimes. So everything, it's Kali Yuga, it's all messed up. You expect saintliness and kindness and compassion and all these things to go along with devotion. And you have very nice Christians, very good parents, very upright, a lot of devotion, very clean, and they're eating their mother. It's just all mixed up. Okay, Christine has a question. Good question, and then we'll end. I don't see Deepak's question. So Christina says, how can I live in the world and be happy, like Prabhupada said, at the same time? Remember that this is a terrible place. You don't have to remember it's a terrible place. Christina, in a few months, she's in Russia. You don't have to remember it's a terrible place. You just go outside and you'll feel it's a terrible place if you're not already feeling it.
It reminds you.
Already. She's in St. Petersburg. And you just go to the temple and you chant Hare Krishna and dance in ecstasy and be happy in Krishna consciousness. And in fact, I always joke about this. This is so funny. Sometimes someone will give a class, and I've done this myself. I've given a class describing the miseries of the material world, but doing it in a very either entertaining way or insightful way or intellectual way or just the whole class was about how the material world's place was suffering. And in the class, everybody gets up and is smiling and saying, hey, that was a great class. And the whole class was about suffering. And it doesn't make sense, does it? You would think after a class like that, everyone would be depressed. Wouldn't you, Christina? Right? You say, wow, that was a great class, so many shlokas, so many verses. And why are we happy? Because we're stimulated in Krishna consciousness, we're inspired by that fact, and we're inspired that there's, as bad as this world is, it makes the spiritual world look better. Isn't it? So we're happy we're on our way. Like, you may be traveling to Vrindavan on a train through the Rajasthani desert and all you see is sand, but you're blissful because you're going to Vrindavan. So, you're looking at the desert and you're going, glad I'm getting out of here and I'm going to Vrindavan. So it's something like, you see the misery of the world and you think, glad I'm getting out of here. So we're blissful in Krishna consciousness because everything about Krishna is blissful. So even though the material world's miserable, Krishna isn't. And it's just like if you're in love. Hey Christina, if you fall in love next month, you'll be happy even in the middle of the winter, even though it's miserable. Right? Because you'll think about your lover and that'll make you happy. Even while you're walking outside in the snow. Right? You'll be happier walking outside in the snow with your lover than alone inside in a warm room. Right? So we're happy because we have Krishna. Yes? Okay. So, that's good. We can stop. Okay, everyone, we're going to stop. You got 12 extra bonus minutes at no extra cost. Next time we'll charge you. No, you got more than, you got 27 bonus minutes.